Are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome everyone to Locked On Texas Tech. It is a nice Monday evening here as I'm recording this, and I am Emery Olida, your host. It's great to be back here again talking Texas Tech. I want to remind you guys, if you have not already checked out the Texas preview, you can check that out. That was released on Friday. Great episode with Jonathan Davis of Locked On Longhorns. We talk everything about the Texas football match. Tomorrow, I'll have the Texas Tech NC State preview coming out. That was a good one with Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. But today, we're going back to the basics. We're talking about a little bit of everything when it comes to football news. We're going to talk about the Matador Club's newest investment in the NIL surface. Really is a groundbreaking deal, which I'll get into in just a minute. Also going to be talking about TCU's athletic director making an enemy of Tech fans on Twitter and the sort of funny little upbringing that caused. And then lastly, we're going to take a little bit of a look at the Big 12 Media Day, just kind of highlighting some of the more interesting stuff that was said and talked about from the Red Raiders that were in attendance. But first off, I got to say, I'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College networks. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions do apply. So, getting into the LinkedIn job market, well, Texas Tech football players, we've heard in the past about them having to work certain jobs. Donovan Smith has mentioned that he was once an Uber Eats delivery driver to sort of supplement some income for him last year. But now that is no longer necessarily going to be quite as much of an issue because the Matador Club announced a new NIL deal today, or at least has been reported that the Matador Club is going to be bringing in a new NIL deal to provide 100 members of the Texas Tech football roster with $25,000 annually, which works out to just over $2,000 monthly. And this will be regardless of star status, regardless of quality, regardless of any other NIL deal. So this is 85 scholarship athletes in addition to 15 of the high performance walk-ons, I believe was the quote said by Cody Campbell. So all of these guys are going to be getting $25,000, which is quite a lot and is unprecedented in an NIL sphere. We've heard group deals like Texas and their offensive line getting $50,000. We've heard Miami giving off $600 a month deals to athletes in order to help them out. We've heard a few other sort of team deals, but nothing to the scale of what we've seen from Texas Tech, who are giving out $25,000 annually, 100 football student athletes. That equates to quite a lot of money being spent. And really, I think it's an interesting approach because we've heard about this for a while as to maybe what Matador Club will be doing. But when you break it down, $250,000 total in NIL deals are going to be spent in order to, $2.5 million. Wow. Well, I don't know how I messed that up, but $2.5 million annually are going to be spent on NIL deals from the Matador Club. That is quite a lot. And when you add in the $200 million project into expansions on the South End Zone and other facility upgrades, it really makes sense to invest in this football program. And when you look at what Cody Campbell's been doing, you look at what Dustin Wommel's been doing on the basketball side and on the athletics program in general, you see this new NIL deal. And it's clear that Texas Tech has really viewed themselves as this is their opportunity to make themselves front runners in the new Big 12 conference. I mean, this is a football program that has been mediocre at best for a decade. That's putting it lightly, but it's the truth. And when you see that they are able to put this amount of investment into the program, you see these NIL deals. That is a huge positive to the program when it comes to program players wanting to come to Tech and get all that money. You're going to see now the depth element of it is huge because not only are your star players getting a lot of money from boosters, but you have now guaranteed that every single scholarship player, no matter what they do, is going to get $25,000. And some of the walk-ons as well. That is very valuable when it comes to building the depth of the program and also building the culture of the program too. because having guys that want to be there that have incentive to be at Texas Tech is a win. And when you invest that much in the program, it lets everyone know that Tech is serious. I mean, we don't need to know that based off of money. We know that just from Joey McGuire and what he's been able to do. But being able to put the money where the mouth is and be able to fund this sort of project is really special. So Tech alum, Tech donors, and everyone in between have really done a great job of getting this thing set up. And I'm excited to see what the impacts of that are on the field. Guys like Ben Golan from Matador Sports were first to announce that you can see some of their great takes on there. If you haven't subscribed, I do recommend doing that. But this isn't a Red Raider Sports ad. I just figured that since that is where I first saw the information, it is worth noting. I think one of the biggest takeaways from all of this, though, is that when you look at what Texas Tech has done, they're really kind of pushing the edge in terms of being innovative. You see what they're doing with this Matador Club announcement, bringing over $2,000 monthly to all of the players, and you see what they're doing with the $200 million expansion project. That is being proactive in their investment. And when you look at what Tech is going to have to do to establish themselves as frontrunners in the conference and eventually a national powerhouse, it's those sorts of moves. You have a passionate fan base. Financially, you have donors that can match up with any donors in the nation. And you know that really from a program standpoint, the facilities, the new Womble Center for basketball, the athletic facilities throughout the campus are really good. You have a lot of advantage and opportunity there if you can get the right amount of personnel there and the right coaching staff. Clearly, Kirby Hoka is very confident in Joey McGuire, and the whole Tech fan base is as well. But when you can add in the new players that are coming in, you bring in this NIL deal, there is a lot of confidence that this is the time to shine for Tech athletics. And so it's time to be very proactive on the football field with the Matador Club. But speaking of the football field, we're not going to be talking about Jones AT&T Stadium. We're going to be talking about Emmitt Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, where the TCU Horned Frogs play. And more specifically, we're going to be talking about a tweet from Jeremiah Donati, the athletic director of TCU, because let me tell you, that guy, very interesting, I have to say. I'm going to get into that tweet and more coming up next in the next segment. But first, I have a message from today's sponsor of the episode and our good friends at LinkedIn. As the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. Now, I've been on both sides of the hiring spectrum. I've ran a business as well as been an employee. And let me tell you, the hiring process is about as interesting and as tedious as they come, whether it comes down to trying to get hired or being hired or hiring someone from the open market. But let me tell you, LinkedIn Jobs, they do it right. They make sure that you have a free and easy way to both post jobs and find jobs. So create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then you can add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools, screening questions, all of that stuff. They make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience that you can quickly prioritize and figure out who you would like to interview and hire, whoever that might be. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus their leading competitors. So LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to, and they make it you find them faster. Did you know that every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Which NFL stars move the betting line the most? Starting today, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odd makers at BetOnline. Available today on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Again, that is the NFL stars that move the betting line the most. You can find that out today on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcasts. Talking about Texas Tech football, wherever you get your Texas Tech football, well, first off, I'd hope you get your information from Locked On Texas Tech. I do appreciate everyone supporting every single day. But if you're watching them in person this season, Jones AT&T Stadium is the home stadium. That's where you're going to see the action in Lubbock. But if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which I know a lot of listeners and a lot of Texas Tech fans are, and Texas Tech alum in general, now's the time. TCU this season has made it difficult to buy single game tickets. For a little bit of backstory, TCU had their single game tickets go live a few days ago, and they made it to where you can buy single game tickets to every game except for the Texas Tech game. And this was obviously going to spark outrage within Texas Tech fans. We saw what happened for the basketball game in Austin last year, where more or less Texas acted like the issue didn't exist, and Tech ended up infiltrating their stadium after Texas shut down the whole process. AD Chris Del Conte pretended nothing happened, but it didn't matter. Tech fans still were able to get into the Irwin Center and send Chris Beard home with an L. But this year, TCU has taken a similar approach in being proactive and stopping ticket sales to the Texas Tech game to the public right away. And obviously, Tech fans were going to be annoyed by this, and for good reason. They thought it was pretty funny. Look at what the Texas Tech athletics account at Tech Athletics on Twitter ended up doing, and they had a little bit of a funny jab back at it when they announced their single game tickets were going on sale today, actually. So you can, if you want to find single game tickets to a Tech game, you can find those wherever you want to on the Tech website, and I'm sure there's a lot of information on that. But this tweet right here is kind of what sparked everything. When you look at what Tech Athletics tweeted, they said Monday single game tickets will go on sale, and we promise you can buy tickets to all 7 games of the week. Now, I'm just saying this seems very, very interesting. And when you look at what TCU's athletic director, again, Jeremiah Donati, said, he came up with the response to one of our listeners, actually, and Chris at TT Red Raider 1983, who had said that TCU had no special packages, and they were withholding the single game tickets to Tech games. Why can't you at TCU? And in response to this, Jeremiah Donati decided to respond. And again, let me just say, very interesting response when it comes to looking at an athletic director of a Big 12 program that should be on the come up. This is their opportunity in the Big 12. And in response to this, imploring why Texas Tech was able to sell their tickets without any sort of special program, why can't TCU do the same? Donati said that he was quite aware and to expect it for hoops tickets too. Now, let me just say, if you have seen TCU's ticket sales in the past few years, you would know that this is kind of a dangerous game to play because TCU fans have had issues with filling up their stadium, whether that be in football or in basketball, but more specifically in football, because if you look back specifically to the mid 2010s, they've had issues with attendance. Now, I'm going to pull up a picture here that I think is very much worth viewing. But if you give me 1 second here, I'm going to have this pulled up. I'm going through a little bit of restream issues at the moment to share this. But if you look at what TCU has done, this was taken, I believe, in 2016, just shows empty stadium. We've seen it in past years. Texas Tech has been able to fill up their stadium regardless of how bad Tech's team is. Think about 2016, 2018. Those are 2 teams that didn't even make a bowl game. And you look at the TCU game, you go back and watch the footage on that, and Tech filled the stadium roughly halfway, which is impressive for an away team. Tech has more alum in the Dallas-Fort Worth area than TCU does, so that is another positive, despite TCU being supposedly the host university. You see, Tech fans have always traveled well in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You saw the 2018 regional game in Dallas for the NCAA basketball tournament. There's really good show out from Red Raider fans. TCU basketball games are frequently basically a Tech home game. So, I mean, it's understandable why Donati would make this, but some of the replies on Twitter have been hilarious. I'm not going to show any of them here, but if you want to go find the original tweet, I'll have that up in the description because first off, yours truly decided to make a Twitter response there. But second off, people were just doing every single possible name calling, making fun, making memes, everything in between. It was great. But the larger point here is this is what Texas Tech's fan base can do. They have made an environment on Twitter and in person that is menacing to the point where opposing athletic directors are not even shying away from admitting that they're withholding tickets from single games and making it difficult for Tech fans to buy the tickets. And if that doesn't say something to you, I don't know what will, because TCU, when you look at it, they are a program that should, in theory, be competing with Texas Tech on the next level to be one of the most valuable programs in the Big 12. And yet, their athletic director is more or less admitting that they're making it difficult for Tech fans to buy tickets because they are scared of Tech fans filling up Amon Carter Stadium in this upcoming fall to make sure that the TCU Tech game is filled up. And I think if they're almost more okay with it being an empty stadium, or at least somewhat empty, than they are having a contingent of Tech fans, which should say a lot, both about TCU, which I have to say I respect the commitment to not shying away from what he's doing and being honest about it, but it's just funny to see an opposing athletic director responding to a random fan on Twitter, calling him out and basically saying that, yes, this is what we're doing. We're not going to change it for basketball, and you're going to have to deal with it. And obviously, that's going to backfire because Tech fans, being Tech fans, when you give them a challenge, when Texas shut down single game tickets, they made a point to make it as easy, or as they went as far as they could to find tickets to that Texas game at home. So don't poke the bear that is Texas Tech fans on Twitter. And if Mr. Donati, the AD of TCU, if you happen to be watching Locked On Texas Tech for whatever reason, I hope you know that this upcoming season in Amon Carter Stadium, I would wager your stadium's going to be filled with red. It might not be completely filled. It's going to be difficult to fill up the stadium, period. But TCU better be on the lookout for Tech fans because some way, shape, or form, they're going to find a way to get into that stadium. And that tweet is either going to age well or horrendously, depending on what the outcome of the game is. But regardless, be ready for a contingent of Tech fans to be at the game to hopefully support a team that's going to be pretty good. And after being ninth in the Big 12 poll, a lot of people had questions about how the team would be covered and exactly what would go on at Big 12 Media Days. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that went on there, talk about the contingent of players that Tech brought, and some of the atmosphere around Joey McGuire and the program from the national media. But first, I've got a message from our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the way to sports development with league reviews and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Back again talking about Texas Tech football and the media days, and this isn't going to be too long, but I wanted to make a point to, first off, say Miles Price, it's the star of media day for Texas Tech football. The receiver came there, obviously coming into his third year in the program. We talked about him last week on the receivers preview. If you have not checked that out already, do that because A, I'm going to have more previews coming up this week, and B, because Miles Price was one of the stars that was featured on that show that we were talking about. So you check that one out. But Price had some really hilarious answers. Tech Twitter, if you want to find where everything is, you can look at just some of the retweets from Miles Price. You can look at some of the mentions of him. You're going to find quite a bit of funny videos. But beyond just that, it was really interesting to see guys like Dejon Taylor Demerson were there, Tony Bradford as well. Caleb Rogers was the fourth attendee for Texas Tech. All those guys are guys with multiple years in the program. Seemingly guys that are going to be leaders and cornerstones at each position. You've got Rogers at the offensive tackle position. You got Taylor Demerson as a safety. Bradford is going to be up at the front. And then you've also got Miles Price at the slot receiver. So all of those guys are going to be important players. It was interesting to see some of the stuff they said, really just buying into what Joey McGuire has done to build the program. So Coach McGuire himself was there, had a nice segment, and really seems to be very optimistic about this team, as they should be. But really, it's just about everything that we've heard seems to be very positive. The players are buying in. They feel like the energy that Joey McGuire brings to the program is very infectious, and as such, has led to continued development within the program. And if McGuire wants to be there, and he's optimistic about this thing turning into a powerhouse, and the players have no reason to doubt that. McGuire, meanwhile, had a couple other media appearances. He had a meeting, I believe, or he had an appearance, I believe, at I think it was at some high school convention, but basically, gist of it was that he really has a lot of optimism around this program. If you look at what they're doing, he had the quote that was making rounds on Twitter yesterday about how they were going to beat Oklahoma and then they're going to tear down the end zone. I don't know if they're going to beat Oklahoma. That seems a little bit far-fetched at the moment, but you never know. It's football. Anything can happen. Upsets happen. And Oklahoma is a big unknown. Texas Tech's a big unknown. So you never know what can happen. That's going to be one thing to watch out for. Also, he said at another media appearance that he was expecting to name the starting quarterback the week before the start of the season. So that's going to be worth watching. Miles Price said that it was the quarterback battle was all really close between the three guys, and it was, as of now, it was impossible to pick one. So obviously the program's going to play it coy. You're not going to expect to hear a solid definitive answer on that sort of stuff, but it is worth noting it's pretty clear that they're all three still in with the shot of winning the starting job. So in general, positive media day for the program. Not a ton of drama went down, but certainly seems like the Texas Tech guys have a lot of optimism around the program. One last thing, Mike Gundy was asked about the new state of college football. I highly recommend you check out that answer, regardless of what you think of Mike Gundy as a coach, because I think it has some good value to it. Again, regardless of what you think of Mike Gundy, the points he's making about the new state of college football and traditions being basically meaningless and kind of how everything's following the money, I think it's a good point and something to ponder on, because we've talked about realignment the last couple of weeks on this podcast. But at the end of the day, realignment is only going to take you so far. What really is going to matter is what's the whole objective behind all of this realignment, and it's what can make programs the most money. You want to be situated in a point that makes your program as much money as possible. And right now, that looks like it's going to be super conferences, but in the near future, we might see that change around. So just something to ponder on. I think that was kind of the big theme of media days, in addition to all the individual teams and some of the questions about them, was the eerie feeling about realignment. Obviously, the Pac-12 might potentially merge with the Big 12. You might see 4 of the Pac-12 teams ending up in the Big 12, or you might not see any expansion at all beyond just the original 4 teams of Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and UCF coming to the Big 12. But regardless, it's interesting to listen to. Again, the Gundy response, regardless of what you think of him, I feel like it's a good reminder of where really this is all coming from. And money has always been the dominant force in college football, but especially now when it's clearly proven that a lot of teams are not willing to stop at just pure tradition or pure geographical boundaries to make these moves. So that's that. That was Big 12 Media Days. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend, but I know there was a lot of Texas Tech media members out there that got some great content. You can follow them on Twitter wherever they are. Obviously, you'll see guys like Carlos Silva, Don Williams. Both of them had really good stuff coming out from that weekend. Red Raider Sports, as I mentioned, had some good stuff. My guy, RC Maxfield, is always on top of Tech things, even though he's not necessarily working with a Tech outlet at this point. There's a lot of guys that cover Tech very well, but if you want to see what I have to say about Texas Tech, you can follow me on Twitter, EddieRacer41. See all my takes on that. You see the Blazers won the Summer League. Really happy about that. You can follow the official Locked On Texas Tech Twitter account at LockedOnTTU. Again, going to be posting some polls on there. You can subscribe to our feed and see wherever you get your podcasts to hear about whatever we have going on, whether that be the NC State preview coming up tomorrow, position previews, we're going to be diving into the offensive line coming up, or any breaking news. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We gained a couple more subscribers over the weekend, trying to get to 500 in the next week or two. Do appreciate all the support you guys have given. It means the world to me. I really do. Hope that I can continue building this. It's been a great month or so. It's been an adjustment without Ryan, but obviously we're continuing to build some great content out here, and I'm really excited to continue bringing this stuff for the football season, which again, NC State preview tomorrow with Kenton Gibbs. You won't want to miss it, but while you're waiting on that, you can go check out the Locked On Big 12 podcast hosted by my good friend Josh Neighbors. You'll get 30 minutes of great Big 12 content, whether it be on media days or just previews or a roundtable every single week. So you can check that stuff out. But regardless, a lot of good content coming up soon on Locked On Texas Tech. But in the meantime, I will see you